There's a very interesting episode in this week's Parsha about Yehuda, the son of Yaakov. In the middle of the narrative of Joseph, you have this story right in the middle about Judah. So, what's the story? He has a daughter-in-law, Tamar. She was married to his oldest son and his second son, who both died, and she was now waiting to get married to the younger son, as was the custom back then. If a man died childless, wife would go to one of the siblings, or in those days, even to another family member. She saw that when Shelah, the third son, grew up, that she was not given to him as a wife. So when she heard that Yehuda would be traveling one night, she went to the side of the road, covered herself up, and while Yehuda was passing, he thought that she was a harlot. So he wanted to lie with her, and he promised to give her a goat in exchange, which he didn't have on him, but she asked for a security, where he gave her his staff, his seal, and he went on. She took off the clothes that made her look like a prostitute, went back to her father's house, and the next day Judah sends with his friend the goat. Obviously he can't find her anywhere. He comes back, and what's he supposed to do? 3 months later, they find out that they tell him that your daughter-in-law is pregnant. He thinks that she obviously must have slept with a foreign man. So he says, as the house chieftain or leader, it's his decision in those days, take her out to be burned. As she's going out to be burned, she shows the staff and the seal, and she says, to whoever this belongs, that's the man that I'm pregnant. It's the man whose child I'm holding. Where Judah at that moment says, she's actually better than me, because I didn't give her to my son, Shelah. And so Yehuda admits that it was him that slept with her. He doesn't let her go to be burned. In this story, we see one of the great personality trait that Judah has, and that he passes on to his children, who are eventually become the kings of Israel, the kings of Judah. Right? God says that he chose David, his servant. So why Judah? So this is one of the reasons you see that he has the ability to admit, even in embarrassing situations, that it was him that was at fault. The Talmud says in the Sechet and Tractate Horayot, that it is fortunate for a people to live in a generation where the Nasi, the prince, has to bring the offering of, there's a special offering for when a prince makes a mistake. So he has to bring this offering. Why is it such a fortunate thing to be living in such a generation? Because that means you live in a generation where the leader is willing to admit that he made a mistake. And we see this later with King David, when he sees Bathsheba, and the whole episode with Bathsheba where he sleeps with the wife of Uriah the Hittite, and then he sends Uriah to the front line to be killed. But the greatness of that story is that when Nathan the prophet the next day comes to him and says, he tells him in the parable, but then he lets him know what you did was wrong. Right away, King David rents his clothes and says, I sinned. I did a great sin. That's a very difficult thing for a king to do. You can imagine him going to the king Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, who was king later on, and saying such a thing. You would probably have him thrown into the Kibshan Aish, the fiery furnace, which is one of the favorite death penalties of the Babylonians. Seems to be. So, you see a king who's, even if he sins greatly, but he's able to admit to his sin. That is That's the kind of king, that's the kind of leader you want. Anyways, have a great day.